You understand that learning the lessons of life, what it does for you is allows you to look at things from what I call an eternal perspective. That's why we go through the situations, the circumstances, the relationships that we have, the good and bad. All things that happen to us are not good. But the good book says all things work together for good. You see, in every tapestry you have the red and the black, and you have the dark colors also that help make up the beautiful picture that you are looking at. And so whatever your circumstances are, don't worry about your circumstances too much. Ask what God wants you to learn from those circumstances. What does God want you to learn from this situation? What does God want you to learn from this relationship? And take the eternal perspective. How is this going to look 50 years from now, or in eternity from now? I've been very fortunate in my life. I love to travel. And in the life I have lived so far, I have been all over the United States. I have been to California and stood at the redwood trees, the largest living things on the face of the earth. Some are said to be over 2,000 years old. Several times I have been to the canyon that people call Grand. I have been to the bottom of Carlsbad Caverns. I have watched Old Faithful in Yellowstone below its top. I have been all across the nation. I have been to our nation's capital. Been in the White House, walked the halls of Congress, at the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Memorial. And in the Smithsonian Institute, I touched the rock that was brought back from the moon. I have gazed across the Isle of Manhattan from the top of the Empire State Building, seen the Statue of Liberty up close, and said a prayer where the Twin Towers once stood. I have been to the Yucatan Peninsula of old Mexico, stood on the top of an ancient Mayan temple in front of an altar where they said 1,000 years ago human sacrifice was performed. I have snorkeled off the coast of Belize in Central America. I have fished for piranha in the Amazon River. I have walked Copacabana Beach of Rio de Janeiro. I have also walked the streets of London, been to Westminster Abbey, where kings and queens, many of them fought all their lives against each other. Their bodies lay side by side. Looked up at Big Ben from the Thames River. I have gazed out across the streets of Paris from the Eiffel Tower. I have also been to the land that many people call holy. I have walked the streets of Jerusalem, ridden across the Sea of Galilee, waded in the Jordan River, and I have been inside the empty tomb. I have also been to the land of antiquity. I have been inside the Great Pyramid in Giza. And I have stood one night, a night so bright that you could almost reach up and pull a star out of the sky, in front of a sphinx, when a voice over the intercom told of all the famous men of history that had stood where I then stood. People as far back as Abraham, Joseph, Moses, world conquerors such as Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Napoleon, and so many more. And every time I go to a place such as that, I say something to that place, and this is what I say. Before God ever created you, He chose me for His eternal purposes. Ephesians 1:4. And long after you have ceased to exist, long after you have rolled up and eroded into nothing, I will still be, for I am eternal. And when you understand that, when you have learned that about life, then you understand that the problems, the trials, the situations, the circumstances, the relationships that you go through now have an eternal quality to them. Good or bad, black or white or gray, God is trying to teach you something through every situation, through every circumstance. And so learn the lesson well. Some of the greatest advice I ever received in my life, I received from a man when I was 12 years old. He said, John, when it comes to yourself, work on yourself harder than anything. Dig the well deep when it comes to yourself, physically, mentally, spiritually. Dig the well deep. For the deeper you dig the well, the purer the water will be. And then the more you will have to give to your family, to your community, to your church, and to your God.